and welcome to today's Judges Training video for Public Forum Debate. I'm Pete Nicholson, debate coach at Burn Burton, and today I've got a little judge training video that has 5 parts and should take about 20 minutes. First, I just want to say, anyone judging a public forum debate, thank you. You really honor the students by showing up for them. Competitive debate is an outstanding activity, but it requires impartial, thoughtful judges who will show up for kids and give them the opportunity to debate. So anyone doing this, I'm really grateful. We all appreciate that you would volunteer to support students in this way. Judging debate's not easy, and nobody expects you to be perfect. The debaters are supposed to educate and persuade. So you are allowed to come in as a clean slate and have the opportunity to learn a lot from the students and then decide who is more effective at argument. Okay, today's video will start with an introduction to public forum. So part 1, introduction. Part 2, running around. Part 3, picking a winner. Part 4, speaker points. And part 5, crossfire. So part 1, introduction to public forum. Public forum debate is a 2v2 format, and it involves each speaker getting to give 2 speeches. So you are going to hear 8 speeches in the course of a round. And there are 3 crossfires where the debaters get to ask each other questions, sort of cross-examining the other side for their arguments and evidence. So there is a lot. The public forum debate is complicated, and it is not necessary for the judge to be perfectly memorize the timing for each speech. You can look at the format, you can have it in front of you, and the debater should have it too. So each debater gives 2 speeches, and there are a total of 3 crossfires. You can think of the debate round as having 2 halves. In the first half of the debate round, each team, pro and con, present their main arguments with their main evidence and their refutations. These are the longest speeches, the most formal, and the ones that should establish the arguments and main counterpoints that each team is presenting. They're laid out on the table and this is where we stand. That's sort of the first half of the debate. In the second half of the debate, each debater gets another turn to give a speech, and this should be both to reestablish their arguments, but also to offer some insight on where the debate is going and why the debate is tilting in their way. The second half of the debate, the speeches are shorter, they're a little more improvised, and they should also identify why the debate is tilting in their way. So if you think of the debate in that 2 halves, first a little more scripted, second a little bit more improvised, and at the end you decide who's won the round. Part 2, running around. So the debate judge is the authority figure in the round, and they have a few responsibilities to getting the round to run effectively. Step 1, you walk into the room, set up where you're going to be. There should be a clear seat for the judge. Get your materials in front of you for taking notes. And the first thing you want to do is get clear who's who in the round. So you want to know who's the pro team, who's the con team, which school they are, and what are the names of the debaters. It's important that you clearly identify this in all your note-taking materials and in the ballot so that you're accurate. So number 1, just get yourself set on who's who, pro, con, and names. Then the round is going to have a coin flip to determine who's going to speak first and who's going to be pro and con. You can use a coin, you can use your phone, but one way or another, the round is going to start with that. So whoever wins the toss, they're going to get to choose. Do they want to be pro or con? Do they want to speak first or second? Once they pick, the other team gets to choose then, the other option. Once those choices are made, then you're clear who's speaking first, second, who's pro and con. So you make sure that's straight. Timing the rounds, debaters should time themselves. They should time their opponents, but the judge can also use their phone or the tab room timer to time the speeches in each part of the round. Make sure debaters are on schedule. If a debater hits their time limit, say it's a 4-minute speech, they come up to the 4 minutes, they're allowed to complete the sentence they're saying, so they can go over by a couple of seconds, and we allow that, but they shouldn't go much more than that. A judge could say, your time's up. Judges should take notes throughout the round. Debaters are going to present a lot of information, and it's complicated, so the expectation is judges are taking notes to understand and show the debaters they're present and really listening. It's also important that judges do not really interact with the debaters, refrain from offering advice, or any indication of who's winning the round. You want to really be an objective presence in the room, and you take your notes, but you try to avoid conversation or advice for the debaters. Moving on, part 3, picking a winner. So you're going to hear 8 speeches, 3 crossfires, a lot of information. At the end, the most important thing you have to do is choose the winner. So when you prepare to take your notes, thinking about what's going to happen at the end, you're going to choose pro or con, and you're going to have to explain in about 2 sentences why. So as you listen to the whole debate round, you have to decide which arguments and evidence are the clearest and most effective at supporting a case. Arguments and evidence come number 1. That's really how you're going to decide who won. Below that are things like public speaking, rhetorical skill, sort of how stylish the speaker is, their teamwork. Those things matter. But a team with a great public speaker that does not present clear evidence would lose to a team that spoke like robots but had clear evidence. So argument and evidence really is prioritized for picking the winner. As you listen to the round, a judge might want to write down the main arguments for pro and the main arguments for con and take notes that way to sort of identify, are these arguments holding up against the other team? Another way to take notes could simply be to record each part of the debate. Main argument, pro and con, and you might decide, okay, who's winning now after the main argument speech? Next comes a crossfire. Who won the crossfire? And that's sort of holistic. You're just judging based on your own instincts there about who you think is winning. But what I'd recommend is be prepared to say why you picked your winner based on the most effective argument in the round. The debate will filter to a key argument that debaters are mostly talking about, and there must be a reason why that argument tilted pro or con. So I think a very reasonable thing to say is, I select pro for this ballot because this argument was more effective in, proving its case. And one really, the best argument in the round could win. You might feel that the strongest debater in the round might carry it, but a reason to explain your pick, pro or con, should be based on the evidence and arguments that were more consistent. A couple things to consider is a debater should use all of their time. So if I have a 4-minute speech and I speak for 2 minutes, that should hurt my case a little bit. I had more opportunity to prove what I wanted to say and I didn't use it. Be aware of contradictions. I shouldn't go back on my own arguments. If you notice that, that's something to be aware of. If I don't seem to know what I'm talking about or you can't follow my logic, that's something you should definitely note. And I think it's also important to show that I'm consistent. If I present 3 arguments in my first speech, then you should continue to hear those arguments coming up throughout the round. If I don't do that, one of my arguments could be considered dropped. I presented it, but I no longer argued it. It seems like I might have conceded it. So debaters want to continue to return to their arguments, continue to refute their opponent's arguments very consistently so that you can say, this case is standing up stronger than this one throughout the round. Picking a winner is not easy. The most important thing is to have a real reason why that's based on argument and evidence so that debaters, when they see it, can feel justified in your choice. Part 4, speakers. Okay, in addition to picking the winner, at the end of the round, you have to rank the 4 debaters and you have to give them speaker points. And this is really, really important because the speaker points will indicate who's going to get medals for top speakers in the tournament, but it also can determine who wins the tournament. So if we have 2 3-0 teams, the speaker points is going to determine how to break the tie. So it's important that you give what you feel is a fair ranking on who won the round and a fair ranking for each debater. So you're going to rank the debaters 1 to 4, and the team that has, it sort of should match the winning team. So you could not have a round where con won, but pro had the number 1 and 2 debater. That would be a problem ballot. Something's wrong here. How could the best debaters be on the losing team? So it's sort of consistent with your pro-con ballot, how you rank them. But then you're going to give them points. And in addition, you will give each debater a comment, which should indicate why you gave them the speaker points you gave them. Debaters all think they're better than they are, maybe, or something like that. But all they really want to know is why they got the score they got. If they can accept a low score if there's a reason. It's really hard to get a score that's lower than you expect and not know why. So let's talk real quick about how you score them. We rank the debaters on a scale of 20 to 30, which is sort of an odd scale, but it's what's used in debate. And I want to just sort of break that down for you real quick. So the best score you can give a debater is a 30. A 30 is an A+. It is a wow performance, and you might see a 30. Don't feel like you cannot give a 30, but you should look at that performance and say, that was pretty much flawless. Like, I should feel like a bit of a wow. And I think you might see a 30 in any given tournament. So it's not impossible, but at the end of a 30, you should say, that's a college performance. That's really beyond expectation. I don't really have any criticism. A 29 is like an A grade. It's a really good grade. A 29 is an elite debater, and didn't have the wow factor. It's pretty much, there's not really a criticism. It's just that it didn't hit what a 30 would do. But it is a pretty much an elite performance. A 29 debater you should probably see in the tournament. That's one of the better players. A 28 I consider like an A-. A 28 is a strong showing. This is a solid debater, well prepared, knew their stuff, but there was a flaw that you could identify. Perhaps they had a little problem in one of the crossfires, or there was an element of their contention you didn't fully understand, and you could identify that in the comments. So you would say, this is a 29, or I'm sorry, this is a 28, this is a great performance, some reason why, something you could do better. So 30, 29, 28, these are high grades. Next category, 27 and 26. A 27 is like a B, B+. A 27, you've seen a good debater, but there is a reason it's not an A. Great, there's something more significant here. So the debater may have had a lapse in some form in one element of the round, but you see a lot of positives. The 26 is now getting down to more like a B-. So a 26 score indicates there was some pretty, like, the debater got through the round successfully, but there was some pretty, like, notable flaws. So if you give a 26, you want to identify why this is scoring like a B-. So there was something that really didn't quite work there in an overall successful showing. Now, below that, a 25. This is like a C. This is not a good grade. So a 25 debater, it was a little rough at times. You know, they might have had some strong moments, but there definitely was something significant in there that said, okay, this can't really be considered above average. This is sort of an unsuccessful round. So it's a pretty low score. It's not a terrible score, but it says, like, there's a lot to grow on. So the 25 score should come with some good specific elements that say, hey, you know, one of your speeches, you left a full minute and a half, or something specific that could help the debater grow. If it's below a 25, that's low. That means you saw something that was almost hard to watch. Like a 24 is like a D+, 23 D. We're getting down to D-. It means the debater really wasn't prepared. They may not have even really been able to get through the round. And so you're giving a really low score if you're down around a 24. So it's okay to give a 24, but recognize that if the player is pretty capable, pretty able to discourse, can do it, knows what they're talking, like they should get probably a 26 or better. The dividing line really is when you get up to the 28, 29, 30. Those are the A grades, those are the top players. So one tricky thing is the first round that you see. Debaters often tend to maybe score a little bit lower, maybe because they're not sure how to compare it. And I think just keep these sort of grading in mind. Have you seen an A, a B, or a C? And that may be helping you evaluate the level of the performance. All right, last thing I want to mention is crossfire and civility. So crossfire is the most exciting, most interesting, most challenging, and most difficult part of the debate round. Crossfire allows each team to ask each other questions and answer them in an open format. So it's 3 minutes uninterrupted. First time, speaker 1 goes against speaker 1. Second time, speaker 2 against speaker 2. And then the grand crossfire where all 4 get to talk at the same time. The challenge here is the debaters are allowed to interrupt each other essentially because this is an open format. It's supposed to be a question and answer exchange. But you're also supposed to assert yourself in response to your opponent's questions. So what we want is we want debaters to be assertive, we want them to challenge each other, we want them to be specific with their questions and with their challenges, but we also want them to be civil and respectful. And so it's very important that debaters understand how to have a lively, interactive crossfire without crossing the line to being uncivil. And we would identify that line as if you simply won't allow your opponent to talk. If I ask you a question, I am allowed to respond as you speak, but I should give you at least 10 to 20 seconds to say something before I can interrupt, challenge, or follow up. My interrupt or challenge should not be to overtalk you or just deny you. It should be purposeful. So if excuse me, can you be more specific about your answer in this regard? Would be reasonable. But if I'm just saying, no, like, then that's not really a civil way to interact with you as you're trying to speak. So I am allowed to follow up. I am allowed to sort of interject, but I should give some space for you to speak. I should have a tone of respect. I should not use phrases like, my opponents don't know what they're talking about, or they shouldn't even be here today in this debate. They're unprepared. Anything ad hominem that feels personal is inappropriate. And if you feel that the crossfire is getting uncivil, I think a judge could say, watch your civility. A warning, right? Essentially, like, if I perceive it as uncivil, I am going to dock that speaker at least 1 point. And it doesn't mean they're going to lose the debate necessarily. You might feel they've lost the crossfire because of it, but it could influence how you score their speaker points, and it's something you'd put in their comments. If you say, hey, you got a little uncivil in the second crossfire, lost a point there, otherwise you would have had a good round. It's not necessary for debaters in crossfire to appear angry or to sort of demoralize their opponent. You are trying to prove that you're right. You're coming from a position of evidence and logic to win your case, and it isn't necessary for you and your opponent to present each other as antagonists. You're all in the search of the truth. Like, the winner is going to be a deep understanding of this topic. So at the end of the round, debaters quickly leave the room, shake hands, and then you complete your ballot. Winner with reason, score for each debater, reason for the score, something they did well, something they can work on. And again, it isn't easy, but your attention to the detail and your care and your willingness to do it means a lot to the students who participate. Thanks for your involvement in the activity. Hope you see a great debate round today.